Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific Admirals Edition, our play-by-email game against XTRG. We're on January 22nd, 1942. We're on our way toward February. The further we can get into 1942 without serious damage, the better, as obviously time is in the Allied hands. We're playing as the Allies, obviously, and XTRG is the Japanese. This is like episode 47 or 48 or something like that. And look at that. We've spotted the Japanese carrier fleet, or at least part of it. We can see there's 3 Japanese fleet carriers here off the coast of Australia. We sent those mine layers out from Townsville, so if we take a look at what we just spotted, we've got the fleet carrier Kaga, Hiryu, and Akagi. They've got a CS, which is a float plane tender, the Chitose, the battleship Kurashima, heavy cruiser Tone, light cruiser Abukuma, and then they've got a flurry of destroyers. These are our minesweepers. We basically sent them out to try and find what is out there, and they did their job. They found it, but they didn't engage. They ended up evading combat, which is probably smart for them because they would not do much, if any, damage against the Japanese. But it's good to know. It looks like XTRG has split the carrier battle group, so if we had our carriers in the region, we could take advantage of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he still has them in the vicinity, because we did know there were all 6 carriers near Comac at one point in time, and now we've spotted 3, but that doesn't mean that, it was only a few days ago that we spotted the other 3, so it doesn't mean they're not somewhat nearby. Good to know, though, they're just off the coast of Australia near Townsville. We'll see how our tankers that we tried to disperse do in that region. You know, we had 4 tankers unloading at Townsville. We broke them up and sent them to 4 different locations to try and see if we could save them, because we knew the Japanese had aircraft in the region, and I guess now it'll come down to us seeing whether they actually make it out or not. Super, I will definitely be playing Grand Tactician the Civil War when it does come out. I mean, battling, I can't do much as far as running away. We'll just have to see what happens. I fully expect to lose something. He's not going to have 3 carriers like 2 hexes away and not hit at least one of those tankers. Alright, so depth charging by Japanese destroyers south of Truk against the Grayling. Looks like some near misses by some depth charges. Other ones are detonating above the sub, so the good old poor Japanese depth charges. Looks like they failed to do any damage to the submarine, so that's good for us. Meanwhile, our destroyers are hunting the I-26 near Johnston Island, and they're dropping depth charges. Whoa! There's a hit. Penetrates the severe damage, taking on water. Dropping more depth charges, near misses. Come on, give us another hit. Give us another hit. He's diving deep. Rattle, evading patterns. Only 1 hit. No noise of the submarine sinking, so we probably did some damage if we actually hit it, but, fog of war, maybe we didn't. Okay. So the Japanese aircraft are spotting a bunch of our different tankers in the area, so this may not go well. I really hope we don't lose all 4. The two or three of those tankers are basically worth, like, if you combine that whole task force that was at Townsville, I think there's something like 80 or 90 victory points, which is basically the value of 2 heavy cruisers or half of one of the pre-war battleships. They're pretty valuable all combined, so if the Japanese do drop the hammer, that'd be a pretty big loss for us. It would really be our first big loss. Without at least some retaliation, but it would be a little bit unfortunate. Meanwhile, he's continuing to pound Wen Kao. Now he's brought some sallies in to do the job there. You can see we're putting up a reasonable amount of flak. No damage there. We lost a few soldiers. 22 runway hits, 2 airbase hits, no supply hits, so that's good to see. Second rate of sallies, 18 of them coming in. More runway hits, more airbase hits, no supply hits there, so that's a good result. 18 more coming in. Man, he is really pounding Wen Kao. That seems to be his focus more than anything. Another 14. You know, if I still had fighters based out of Wen Kao, it might have been nice. There might have been some easy pickings there, but by now the runway's so torched, there's no way that I'm gonna accomplish anything. I'm just gonna fly him in there to get hit on the ground. So unfortunately, we don't have any bases nearby that we can hit him from. Meanwhile, some of our own bombers flying out of Guilin, going against some Japanese troops near Canton, I assume it is. Looks like we just lost 1 to flak. What were they bombing? They didn't even hit anything. guess they're attacking on the Canton Special Base Force. I would have preferred they not do that. Hey, Moose Red. J Street. Yeah, I'm sneaking in an earlier stream. I said in the Discord that I would probably be streaming a little bit earlier. Well, I didn't say earlier. I just said I would be doing it. Allied aircraft. I'm confused. So we had some... I wasn't even paying attention. Why are all these guys escorting? Oh, I have them set to escort, don't I? Well, that just gave away that we have hurricanes in Singapore now. Damn it. I did see your warning, Neuhauser, about the south of Changsha. I'll have to take a look at the intel reports. I guess it depends on how south you mean. We did drive a Japanese division 1 hex south of Changsha back last turn. The Gertrude has flooding damage. All right, so nothing happened in the AM phase with the Japanese carriers and their air wings, but I'm assuming they're going to attack in the PM phase. I mean, he could be going for a wide flanking maneuver, Neuhauser. That's certainly possible. Moose, yeah, it's kind of a shared Discord with Tortuga. I don't have my own standalone Discord channel. Or I do, but I don't publish it. I may at some point. But I have a channel within Tortuga Power's Discord that we kind of share. It's just, to me, it feels like there's a million Discords and every other YouTuber has their own Discord, and I know from a branding perspective it's probably better if I publish my own, but it's just another place that I have to go. So I spent a lot of time on Tortuga's Discord already. I guess I would rather just kind of stay there, and you guys can kind of come join us there, and we'll build one big happy family over there. Meanwhile, Japanese dive bombers are going after... they didn't make it to Bowdoin. I was hoping these guys would make it into port, but it looks like the corvette there, the Jasmine, and the fleet oiler, the Pecos, did not make it into Bowen Harbor before the Japanese hit with some dive bombers from this 3-carrier group. They're putting some damage on the fleet oiler, the Pecos. The Pecos is kind of a mixed bag. It's actually only worth 6 or 7 victory points, so from like a victory perspective, it's not that valuable. But we don't have a ton of fleet oilers that have good payloads, and the Pecos is one of them. So even if the game says it's not super valuable, it is kind of a handy ship, and to have it hit by Japanese bombers is going to kind of suck. Meanwhile, the corvette there took 3 bombs and sunk. The Pecos, I don't know if it sank. Didn't say it sank in that video. Meanwhile, we brought in 50 enemy bombers toward Townsville. You can see they're going after our mine layers and the British motorist tanker. Dropping a lot of ordnance so far. No hits, but again, there's 50 of... Oh, there they go. First 250-kilogram bomb into the British motorist. Fuel cargo is burning. She's half full of fuel, so she's probably going to go down. You can see the alert there from fuel cargo burning. These appear to be coming in from a Kagi, or at least some of the squadrons seem to be. I haven't seen any hits from the Kates. I don't know if they're dropping torpedoes or not. I'm kind of curious. It would be ideal if they were dropping torpedoes, because he only carries so many of them. But I don't think it actually tells me what they're dropping unless they get a hit there. Quite a few 250-kilogram bombs are hitting from the Vals. They're at least doing a good job of hitting their targets. Kate's... Oh, that one is carrying a 250, so he must be preserving his torpedoes there. But if he wants to waste bombs on a minesweeper, that's fine. Alright, let's fast forward this a little bit. A lot more bomb hits. The Bunbury minesweeper sinks. The British motorist sinks 14 bomb hits. The Japanese have 50 aircraft coming in attack. At the very least, they're using their sorties and their supply up, I guess. That's the silver lining there. Only 1 aircraft damage there. Not really much flak that those ships could put up to do anything. Maybe we'll get some ops losses. Was that... Oh, the Pecos sank. Damn it. So we've now for sure lost a fleet oiler and a tanker. I think that's about 26 victory points. Meanwhile, the Cuttlefish fires another set of torpedoes and misses. Because he sucks. Looks like that's it for the air combat, though, so he's at least not targeted 2 of my other tankers. If he maybe moves out of the area, maybe they'll still survive. Looks like dispersing the group was a good decision. Meanwhile, the Japanese continue their bombardment attack at Changsha against our very heavily dug-in forces there. Go ahead and fast forward through this. It's going to take a while. 20 Allied casualties, nothing destroyed, just a little bit of disruption. He's continuing to only bombard, probably with his artillery units. Only 1,600 troops are attacking, and we know he has about 100,000 soldiers in Hex. Meanwhile, Japanese deliberate attack here on Nomaya, guys. This may be the end of it. You can see 2 Japanese infantry regiments, 4 artillery regiments or battalions, and they've got a tank regiment and a couple of guards units here. So this may be it. I don't know how well we're going to hold out. We do have a considerable number of troops here, but they're mostly militia. I think the 39th Australian Battalion's the only group of regular soldiers. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Meanwhile, you can see the Japanese are bombarding. Deliberate attack means that their total attack value is a little bit less, but their, the casualties the Japanese take will be less as well. You can see the Naval Guards units are having some of their attack value drop somewhat precipitously. The 8th Tank Regiment also just lost 11, and the 144th Infantry Regiment looks like it's losing some of its attack value as well. 84th, yeah, they're dropping. Granted, a lot of our defensive troops are as well. The 4th Australian Brigade is hanging in there a little bit. New Caledonia Detachment and coastal regiments are all kind of hanging in there, but the other troops are losing a bit. We'll go ahead and fast forward and see what happens here. So it looks like they attacked with 12,153 troops, 211 guns, 166 vehicles, attack value of 412. We had 5,680 troops, 73 guns, 16 vehicles, so 10-to-1 advantage for them in vehicles, 3-to-1 advantage for them in artillery, 2-to-1 advantage for them in soldiers. In terms of adjusted assault value after you factor in the forts, their assault value drops down to 249, and our defense value increases slightly to 193. They were able to obtain 1-to-1 assault odds, which meant that they reduced the fortifications to level 2. They did lose more men than us. They lost 61 squads disabled, 3 non-combatants, 1 engineers. We lost 1 squad destroyed, 91 disabled, 13 non-combatants disabled, 1 engineer destroyed, 5 disabled. So they somehow lost more men in terms of casualties, 734 versus 492, but they actually... I think they got the better of it. So if they attack again next turn with a level 2 fort instead of a level 3 fort defending, and with us having 91 squads disabled and 1 destroyed versus just 61 on his end, I think he would end up winning that. If he shock attacked, I think he'd win relatively easily. But we'll see. Maybe he'll hold off for 1 more turn. In any event, Comac's going to fall probably somewhere between January 23rd and January 25th, depending on how aggressive he is. He's continuing the bombardment attacks at Wankau. Doesn't look like they're doing much damage to the main force of ours that needs to hold out the 100th Corps, which is in pretty good shape. We did lose 10 casualties, 1 squad destroyed. Okay, some forts are expanding in size. In Australia, that may come in handy someday. And I think we're about done with the turn. All right, let's jump in here and take a look. First, let's go down to New Caledonia, where that attack just occurred. You can see we started off with, I think, around 170 or 180 assault value. We're down to 111, so we lost about a third of our strength. That doesn't bode well for us. Fortunately, he's not going to capture too many supplies when he does capture this, but that is going to be a lot of victory points for him when this does fall. I mean, this one unit, the 4th Australian Brigade, just based off its militiamen, are worth 67. The engineers bring it to 70, 85. Yeah, I mean, he's going to end up having around 100 victory points. I don't know if support counts for anything when he takes out that brigade just by itself, and there's a bunch of other units in here that are going to contribute to his victory point bonanza there. And that's going to be what we're going to see a lot more of as he starts taking some of these other key bases as well. In any event, the attack at Nomaya began, and we'll see if he continues it next turn. If we move north here, we can see the Japanese carriers are moving west. They're moving toward Townsville? Huh. They only have 70 fighters, which is interesting. I wonder what his actual cap is over the base. Sure would be interesting. Do we have aviation support? We do. Did our fighters not make it up this way? Doesn't look like our P-40s actually made it there. I'm curious what he's going to do up here. So I just flew my guys north here to Charters. What is it? Charterstown? I'm kind of curious here if we can go with a naval attack. Switch search down to maybe 10. Altitude's at 5,000. I mean, average experience is 32. We're not going to hit anything. But it wouldn't be bad to let him know that we've got some bombers here if he stays in range. Meanwhile, I don't think he's going to bomb Charterstown, so we'll go ahead and set everybody to escort. So hopefully these fighters go in escorting him at 15,000 feet. And we'll see what cap he left. Again, these pilots' average experience is 29, so not the best scenario for these guys to be going in with. But, you know, it might be... Maybe we'll surprise him. Maybe, I mean, he didn't seem to have a ton of fighters with him. He may be leaving some of those back on cap as well. Some of these other, I mean, I don't want to just get planes shot down for the sake of getting them shot down. So I think we'll stick to that. Meanwhile, the British Destiny is going to go ahead and disband here in the port of Cairns, and hopefully it won't get hit by the Japanese next turn. We also disbanded the Marpesa, which is also at the port that just got bombed. So there's that. I think we'll leave the Mildura here at Townsville in the hope that his bombers get lured in to hit that. Meanwhile, we will go ahead and launch a naval strike with our Whirlways. Their experience is 45. They're probably going to get shot to pieces as well. But, you know, maybe we'll push through and get one lucky hit. I doubt it. They're not skilled for it. But we'll bring them in at 10,000 feet. Neuhauser, he's using some. I mean, we saw some Claudes on board the carriers, which was interesting, to say the least. Intelligence only says 70 fighters, but, I mean, even if I send 31 bombers, even if he's only got, like, 30 fighters up, they're probably going to chew the bombers up and nothing will get through. And then the other problem is that the bombers themselves, their experience is so low, even if there were no enemy fighters, you probably still wouldn't get a hit. But it might spook them off a bit. Just maybe. I mean, the real hope is just to kind of scare them away, I think. Let's see. I don't think I really have much else that can do anything. I mean, I could really try and overload them with Whirlways, I suppose. But I don't even think they can get there. They don't have the range to get there in time. They're all trained for ASW anyway. Yeah. The sub needs fuel. Why are these light cruisers going back this way? That is not where I want you to go. Get out of there. At least no one's detected you. All right, move back toward Darwin, I think. Can you make it to Darwin? At mission speed, you can make it to Darwin. Okay. So hopefully he doesn't sprint north to hit Port Moresby. As long as he doesn't do that, I think these guys are relatively safe. Do mission speed for these tankers. So we got 2 tankers out of there. 2 were sunk. And these guys are unloading cargo. Port Moresby. Port Moresby's building its forts up, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. It's almost to level 3. Can these guys fall back on New Britain? I don't know if I ever gave them that order. Or Gas Mitra or whatever you call it. He's got a division here. Cuttlefish, you have a few torpedoes left. Maybe you'll make a dent. Triton, you come down here. Your base is no longer Pearl. Your base is now Townsville. You can make it. All right, so we'll do that. Tarpon is over here. Moving southwest. Really, he has a cruiser task force moving that way? I mean, I want to try and get as many of these subs into action as possible. Gladly use full speed to keep up with Japanese heavy cruiser. Maybe we'll get lucky, score a hit, or 2, or 3. Maybe we'll sink something. Who knows? All right, meanwhile, we've got these guys coming in to be north of truck. Got a bunch more subs coming this way, too, from various other posts. They're all kind of converging on truck. So there's that. Meanwhile, do we have... Why are these guys going? I don't even remember why these guys are going to Norfolk Island. I think we saw enemy submarines there last turn. Want to pay them a little bit of a visit. Our cruisers repairing in New Zealand are coming along nicely. The Australia and the Perth will be done in 2 days. The Canberra and New Orleans will both be done in 5 and 9 days respectively. So those repairs are coming along nicely. If we take a look at what we have here ready, we've also got the light cruiser Marblehead, which is in good shape, and we've got several destroyers already. So we should have a nice little surface action force before too long. Some of these tankers are returning back to the U.S. Some of these guys are going to Melbourne. So it looks like these guys finished unloading at New Zealand, and they're going to take a relative safe-ish route. That's pretty damn close. Let's give you a different route. All right, so you take that wider route, and you still get closer than I'd like. So you're going to swing wide this way. All right, that should be good for them. Meanwhile, these guys just finished unloading fuel in the south of New Zealand. So those guys are on their way back as well. We're going to set their waypoints as well. They're moving back at standard speed. So they should be relatively quick because these tankers can be faster than regular cargo ships. But why are they going to Tahiti? Oh, they're not going to Tahiti. They're going back to... I think I had them divert to Tahiti as their base at one point. Okay, so we'll set LA as their home. Do I still have waypoints on? No. Gotta use new waypoints. Maybe we'll use Tahiti as a waypoint. Wouldn't mind to go to Tahiti. Maybe not in the summer, but winter I imagine it'd be pretty nice there. All right, they're going to be plenty wide of Japanese submarines. All right, so we unloaded the fuel in the southern island of New Zealand. So you can see there's 16,000 at Christchurch. Dunedin has 2,000. Ivergill has 1,700. Greymouth has 1,000. Nelson has 0, but I don't think there's any factories there that need it. And Blenheim has 1,000. And you can see here, that was all based off the fuel that we unloaded there, and it's all kind of dispersing to the relevant locations. Same sort of story on the North Island, where we unloaded a good deal of fuel there. Auckland has the majority of it, 57,000, but what we did unload should be more than sufficient to power the Australian economy for some time anyway. Let's see here. Dunedin? Dunedin? However you pronounce it. All right, so that's the situation there. I don't think I have a lot else to do in Australia this turn. These guys, Concurry. Is it coming back to Concurry? It is. All right, so once they get back, we can form a new division at Concurry for the Australians here. Yeah, I need to move some of these guys away from the coast, because if the Japanese do come calling with their carriers, I don't want to be a sitting duck. But, yeah. Okay, so that's all moving there. Okay, so we've got a reasonable number of troops at Darwin. Nothing too shocking, I don't think. Meanwhile, Perth still has a lot of fuel that's unloading. These tankers actually already finished, so they'll go back to... Not Palembang, that would be a bad idea, but maybe we'll bring them into Surabaya. It's starting to produce some more fuel, so we can probably pull some out of there. Undock. Meanwhile, can we dock one of these guys? Maybe they're both docked already. They are. Nice. All right, so they're unloading their fuel. It's about another 20,000 to come off. We've got about 82,000 currently at Perth. You can see here we've got some additional tankers coming in from Oosthaven, from Perth, or from Cape Town, actually. That's the first tanker to come in from Cape Town. These guys are heading back. They already unloaded. Okay. Wow, a lot of those guys unloaded pretty quickly. 28,000 still. These guys are almost fully loaded. They should be fully loaded after this turn, and then we should have another 26,000 fuel back on the way to Perth from Oosthaven. Moving at mission speed, some good escorts. That's a heavy escort, bunch of KVs. 26,000 fuel at Oosthaven. We're down to 28,000 at... I swear there is still some fuel being produced at Palembang, despite the fact that we turned off the refineries there. There's still a substantial amount of fuel that seems to be showing up out of nowhere. Meanwhile, at Singapore, we've got all these troops here. We're at 1,000 for our defense. Forts are up to level 3. I don't know if they'll get to level 4 in time or not. I think we're going to stand down everybody here, trying to get their readiness up a bit. They're at 82. Their fatigue levels are relatively low, 10 and 12. Let's go ahead. Do we have any? Nope, these guys are still not ready. Still 9 of them in not ready status. We have some aviation support here. Not enough, I guess. Those guys are all stood down, trying to get them back ready for combat. This hurricane can go join its group in Singapore. Okay, so we got one more hurricane into Singapore from Palembang. This heavy bomber is going to fly to Unit OOB, Rangoon. Okay. Let's see here. We've got the Black Hawk over here, some PT boats. I don't really want to send more supplies into Singapore. We don't have any ships under repair. So it looks like the Seal and the Sturgeon both are ready for sea. So we're going to go ahead and set these sub-patrols, get these guys out of port before bad stuff shows up. Should be fully loaded, fully repaired. We're going to send... I wonder who are their captains here. Aggression level 69, that's pretty good. It's the other ship in the task force. Herd. Aggression is 34, that is not good. Let's get you an aggressive skipper. Lieutenant Commander Connor. John Connor. Alright, so we'll send him. So Wright and Connor, both aggression levels of 69. I didn't even check what I was picking Wright's other attributes. Inspiration's only 48. That's pretty low. Leadership 56, Naval 42. How does it compare to the other guys? I mean, Dockery would have been a better choice. 59, 59, 52. Zawacki would have also been a better choice. One lower aggression. But you know what? Whatever. You just deal with it, alright? Alright, so we are going to send these subs to base out of Australia as well. Probably down by Townsville. And then we're going to have their orders to be near Truk. Truk seems to be the main place I want to send stuff. Because when he needs to reload the Kitty Butai or any other things like that, he's going to have to go to Truk. So that's where I'm going to send my subs. We actually have mine layers here? We do. Although they don't appear to carry any mines. Oh, they're motor launches, that's why. So they're basically just speedboats with guns. Alright. Like a G-Man, we've been pulling oil. Well, I can't easily pull oil out of the Dutch East Indies because there's no oil at Oosthaven. There's only oil at Palembang, and Palembang is within range of his land-based bombers. My thought, my hope, was that basically we'd drain Palembang of fuel, and then once it was out of fuel, we'd return the fineries back on and turn some of that oil into fuel. But realistically, there's no way for me to ever pull the majority of that oil out. The good thing is, though, even once he turns his refineries back on, that refinery will probably be at like 500 instead of 1,000. So he's going to have to ship large amounts of oil away from Palembang for a long time. And that means he's going to have to burn fuel up to transport it somewhere he can refine it, which is not super efficient. So just by turning the refinery off, we already made life a little bit more difficult for him. And, we'll have to go from there. I don't think Java has much oil. 5,090. I mean, I think we actually still have the refineries on in Java, and Batavia, which is fine because the fuel levels there are relatively low. Same story for Balikpapan, although the oil there is a little bit higher. Okay. Meanwhile, he's still made no move toward Bataan, which is a little bit disconcerting. We've got a tanker, or we've got a cargo ship on the way to Bataan with another 1,000 supply. So we're at about 49.9, so it looks like we only used like a few hundred supply up. We'll go ahead and dock this guy and load supply. So the Zeeman's a little bit closer to where Japanese soldiers are, but we're loading it up with 635 supply from Jolo, which only has 1,500 supply. So hopefully it can load up in one day. And then once it's loaded, we'll go ahead and send some supply. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to send some to like some of these other bases in here where we do have soldiers, just to make it a little bit more difficult for him to take some of these bases. Right now, the supply's so low, they'd fall really quickly. But realistically, the likelihood of me putting up any resistance anywhere than Bataan is really small. So I think we'll just kind of continue focusing on sending as much supply as we can to Bataan to lengthen the amount of time that we're able to hold out there. Why did he move that guy inland? Do we have any infantry? We don't. So I can't exactly send these guys on an offensive strike toward Beaufort. These guys don't have any infantry. Oh, they have a little bit of militia. But I don't want to abandon this place. So, it is what it is. Alright, so that situation's the same. Meanwhile, these guys load supplies, 28,000. And go for Rangoon. Okay. We got 60,000 fuel inbound from the United States, and you can see here that we set these guys to flank, and they're still at 100% fuel. So we got 60,000 fuel incoming from this task force from the United States, 7,600 from that, 7,200 from that, so about 74,000, or sorry, can't do math. Yeah, about 75,000 fuels on its way. We're down to 35,000 out of Cape Town, so it's a good idea to transport some fuel that way. Bunch of cargo task forces moving in. How's the Prince of Wales doing? She's still at 53. She's still quite a ways away. What are we, 17 days away from port? Meanwhile, these guys are already loading fuel, so these. All right, we'll disband these guys. We've got some cargo ships on the way to Aden to pick up the Australian Infantry Division there. These guys are headed toward Aden to pick up the Australian Infantry Division. back on the U.S. West Coast, waiting for some ships to arrive. It looks like we've got another task force that'll arrive in 1 day, so we'll dispatch that for Cape Town as soon as it arrives. Then we've got some other large forces arriving here, spread out over the next few days. Okay, so that's good. Meanwhile, 1DD, 4 AKs. All right. Meanwhile, moving back to Pearl Harbor, I think it's time for us to move the carriers. I don't want to go on the offensive in the Central Pacific because it's too far removed from where the real action is, and it really, as our previous attempt showed, it's not going to do much to actually divert XTRG. But I do think I want to move the carriers down toward New Zealand to at least give us the option of responding to Japanese actions in the event that he pulls his carriers from the theater of operations. Now, I'm not setting these task forces up to operate offensively. I'm basically just going to move it as one big blob. You get massive penalties if you try and operate American carriers alone, or sorry, in large groups. So we're not going to do that. We're going to set this up basically to work as a whole bunch of, basically, you know, these are going to be all 3 or 4 separate task forces. So in that mindset, we've got 3, 6, 9, 11 destroyers. Something like 6 light cruisers and 4 heavy cruisers to go with our 4 carriers. I'll probably link them up with the heavy cruisers that we're repairing in New Zealand as well. Did I just disband them? No. I'll probably link them up with the heavy cruisers that we have in New Zealand as well, just to give them a little bit more escort power, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and move them to Auckland, and we're going to set some pretty conservative waypoint routing just to keep them out of sight of the Japanese. But I don't want the Japanese to... Oh, shoot. I didn't even tell them to go there yet, did I? Nope. All right. So return to Auckland. Use waypoints. Okay. Gonna stay back behind the Caroline Islands. Basically ensure there's no chance that once we clear Pearl that we run into Japanese submarines or carriers or anything like that. So they're going to be moving down to Auckland. That's kind of more of a central position where they can respond to the Japanese. Hopefully he moves his Kirubutai, or at least part of it, toward the Dutch East Indies, and maybe we can get a 4-on-3 advantage there or something to that effect. Plus, it's in the general direction of the oncoming British carrier as well, so theoretically we could link up with that, although that's not a huge force multiplier, to be honest. So we're moving that. I know we still have some ships that are under repair that we were intending to move the carriers. I think we have 4 heavy cruisers, which are still undergoing a couple more days. We could always have the Indianapolis catch up with the force, or the Portland and the San Francisco, or we'll just keep them back with the battleships. I'm not moving... I think I have 1 battleship or 2 battleships. No, I actually don't have any battleships at Pearl. Okay, so all the battleships at Pearl are currently repairing. Could have sworn I had a battleship at Pearl that was ready. Guess not. In any event, so we're doing that. In addition to that, I think we'll also try and see here. We have any AOs? We've got 2 AOs. Fleet oilers. They're all kind of slow, though. Not really ideal for operating with a fleet. But in any event, we'll go ahead and set up a replenishment task force with, I'd say, 4 destroyers. And then our 2 AOs that are here. We'll load them up with fuel. One of them is already loaded with fuel. And then we're going to send them to Auckland as well. Although we have 50,000 fuel in Australia, so that should help us operate out of there. We will burn through that very rapidly. So we'll want to make sure that we bring some of our own. Okay. Fleet oilers are going to take a very safe route as well. And they'll head down there. Newhauser, you're not a fan of moving the carriers to New Zealand? I'm not engaging anything. I'm just moving around. I know Belugan wants me to keep my carriers basically way far away and away from any engagements for a considerable amount of time, which is fine. I mean, I understand the sentiment. What I will say is that I'm not planning to engage anything. I'm just keeping them there so that they are sort of able to respond either east or west as threats may emerge. But if we don't know where the Kido-Butai is, we will not engage. I may not even base him out of Auckland. I may base them off the South Island of New Zealand, where he's even less likely to find them. I do want to create a ASW task force here, just in the event that maybe there's some enemy subs out here. So we'll move in this way, max react 6. Then I'm going to form another task force. ASW. Unfortunately, the American destroyers kind of suck at ASW, but it is what it is. I'll move these guys down here. We're going to set all of our aircraft, not all of them, but a large chunk of our aircraft. Patrol craft 2. We're going to set, all 48 of these aircraft to ASW 100. Set them down to maybe 10,000 feet. Okay. Thought I set these guys to AS. Wait, did I not set them? What do we have set to ASW? Wait, we set these guys to naval. ASW patrol. That's what I want them set to. Alright, so they're doing that. Probably should do the patrol aircraft too, eh? And I'm just doing that because the carriers are going out. So this will be a one-turn thing where I'm just going to try and swamp the seas around us with ASW. Newhauser, if he keeps his carriers in the south, away from the Dutch East Indies, we can swing wide around Australia and head toward the Dutch East Indies. I mean, it's a central position. Belugan, I know, has said keep them out of harm's way. I will say that by February, he was using his carriers in the Dutch East Indies against me in our game. And so, again, I'm not going to just have them sit eternally in port. But I understand the concern. Okay, these guys are going to move back to Pearl. They can't make it. What? Right, they're unloading troops. These guys are taking forever to unload. These guys drop any of their mines? Why aren't they dropping mines? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the general consensus. Like, if I knew he was going to split... The entire reason that Belugan wants me to keep the carriers away from him spotting them is so that he thinks he has to keep the Kido-Butai consolidated at all times. If that uncertainty is not actually forcing him to keep the Kido-Butai concentrated, then I need to use that to my advantage. And if we get the opportunity where we know, and this is not that, I'm not suggesting that in any way, but if we know, for example, for a fact that the Kido-Butai is split, then you need to engage because it's an opportunity you can't pass up. All right, let's move some cargo ships to Pearl Harbor. Not mainly because I want the supplies, although I guess we can load them up, but mainly because I want to move some of those air units at Pearl. Just a few, but a couple of fighter units. Okay. What's this task force? so this guy unloading troops, dock, unload the Brockville rifles, then you're going to head back to Victoria to pick up the Edmonton Fusiliers, and then eventually back to get the 2nd Canadian Scottish Battalion. We're up to 155 political points now. I'd like to get up to, is it like 700 and something? There's a, is it this regiment? No. There's a Marine regiment somewhere around here. Maybe it's at San Francisco. Nope. There is, or is it the 108th maybe? No, that's part of the 40th. Where is it? Huh. I know they're here somewhere. Or maybe they haven't arrived yet, I'm not sure. Or no, they're at Pearl. There's a Marine regiment at Pearl. Not the 2nd. They're on a restricted HQ. They're somewhere. I don't know where they are. Pearl, Suva, Pacific, Hawaii, Pacific. Yeah, so... Is the Hawaiian Department restricted? Oh, they are. So there's 2 regiments here that are both the Hawaiian Department. I don't know. There's some regiment somewhere around here that is restricted that I want to make sure becomes unrestricted. Those guys are moving strat. Actually, it's the men in the Miracle. It's the 164th. These are the guys I need to unrestrict, and I need 713 political points to do that, so we're not doing that anytime soon. Meanwhile, did we actually... So we changed some of these guys to buffaloes. I think it's this guy, this group. So we got some of their aircraft switch over to Wildcats, not all of them. I'm trying to see, actually, did these ships in Pearl, did these... draw any reinforcements? Sorry guys, I know this isn't the most riveting. They did not. Placements delayed 3 days. But there will at least be 7 aircraft they can draw in to get more fighters to get closer to the max fighter layout. Placements delayed 6 days for these guys. Those F4Fs, so we can't upgrade them from that pool. Or F4F4s, I think they were. These are F4F3As, which also apparently don't have anything in this. So they have F3, but not the A or the 4. Damn it! Fucking too many variants of these things. I don't even think there's a meaningful difference. Whatever. Okay, so there's that. Did we... Okay, so where did we move the wildebeests? I think they're at Surabaya. They are. Is there any? There is some aviation support down here at Kopang. Kopang's just off the Australian coast. Let's see if we can get these torpedo bombers down here. They can't quite reach. If we give them drop tanks, I bet they can reach. They can. Okay, good. So they're flying to Kopang. And then from there, we're going to pull them back out to Australia. And once they're in Australia, the hope is that we can use them to bolster the defenses there should he launch in oh, can't reach. Can't go all the way to Darwin. They'll die. But at least get these guys in the direction of Australia. Okay, so we're pulling our torpedo bombers out of the Dutch East Indies. Good for that. Yeah. All right, let me check in with the chat real quick, guys. I'm sorry, Newhouser. I just don't agree with the idea of going for the problem. Here's the problem. Kwajalein is a large airbase. I don't believe this recon that it's still a level 1. He can base GM3 and GM4s out of Kwajalein, and they can hit Wake Island with torpedoes. They can swing all the way around here. The only base that we might have a realistic chance in the near term at taking back would be Midway. And the problem is if we commit to Midway, if we hit Midway with our carriers, he's going to know the carriers are here, and he knows all the rest of the Pacific Ocean is up for play, and he can do whatever he wants against Australia, against the South Pacific, or against the Dutch East Indies. Midway is just frankly too isolated to be of any value. It's going to take several weeks, if not months, to reduce Midway to get the troops into place to be able to do anything with this. If we move our carriers to the South Pacific, there is nothing that really prevents us from still moving them back to Midway and making a lunge at Midway in a month or so. But as far as right now, because we don't have the forces ready, we don't have the transports ready, we don't have the logistics ready for any sort of lunge at Midway, keeping the carriers in place for another month doing nothing is just not something that I think is terribly wise. Even if I tried to raid, like he's gonna have recon planes on Midway. He's gonna have them on Wake. He's gonna have them on Marcus. We could sprint in and hit any one of these islands, but he's gonna know we're there if we tried to move past them. So the thing is, again, he can base GM3s out of Wake. He can base them out of Kwajalein. He may or may not be able to base them out of Marcus. There's no real feasible way for me to get at the Marianas without him having a 3 or 4 day heads up. At that point, my carrier becomes just as much a sitting duck, if not more so, in the Central Pacific than it does in the South Pacific, except that I will have no recon and no ability to know what's coming. At least in the South Pacific, I can put recon on islands to get a general sense of what's around there before we commit. I have no ability to get recon over any Weetalk, over Truk, over any of these islands, and I don't think there's any realistic reason that he would ever respond to a carrier raid on the Marshalls, to respond to a carrier raid on Wake or Midway. And I don't think it's going to divert him from his primary task. I think, he's even said as much in some conversations, is that he really just wants to take some of these islands so that they're things that we have to try and take back. And I think if we fall into that strategy, I think that we're playing into his hands, because I don't think he has any desire to fight out here. If we move into the Marianas or toward Truk, where he might actually want to fight, he's going to have 2 or 3 days heads up before we actually get there, and then he's going to be able to respond accordingly, and we're going to run straight into an ambush. Bombing Kwajalein will get us like 10 victory points, and it will let him know exactly where our carriers are. I don't think there's any... he's not going to... We can't land on Kwajalein, and there's a very high likelihood that if he has a bunch of bombers based there, we might lose a carrier. So, frankly, moving them to New Zealand and then seeing what develops is the best strategy at this time, in my opinion. And we will see if I'm horribly wrong and if I get my carriers sunk. But if I do, that is the reality of it, and that's part of what makes this a good series, is that I want something worthwhile watching, and having the carriers sit out for a month isn't exactly what I would do, and also probably is boring. But outside of being boring, isn't really what I want to do. Okay. Again, if he moves toward Australia and my carriers arrive at New Zealand and he's still sitting around there, then I can just take the wide route around Australia, and I can counter his offensive into the Dutch East Indies, which will probably be materializing by that point. Okay. In any event, if I change my mind in the next day or two, I'll just send the carriers back. It will be easy to undo this pretty quickly. Okay, so we've already moved those subs. I think Port Moresby's digging in, right? We already looked at that. 78 defenses. Still kind of annoyed those fighters didn't show up in Townsville. I don't really think I've got a lot else to do on this turn, to be honest, guys. I mean, we can go check China out. That's kind of the one place. We're building up in Pegu, right? Pegu's building forts. That's at level 3. Rangoon is building forts. That's at level 3. Taigai is building forts. Not very quickly, but it is. Elika. I think I have all these guys building forts. I do. Okay. So that's good. Meanwhile, so we drove back one enemy division here, southeast of Changsha. He could be moving this force over here to threaten our southern line here near Hanang. It looks like he kind of might be. What's the road situation look like? Kind of tempting to move these guys actually in this direction. It does look like he is moving something up toward Henyang to potentially try and flank our position in Changsha. Where is this guy moving? He's moving to Changsha via strategic. You're going to change your destination and move to Henang. I don't think he has the forces, frankly, at Changsha yet to drive us back. We've got almost 600 assault value here. He could try and flank us, I suppose. He's also got some units down here near Queline. 600. He probably would try and... He doesn't have a good roadway, but he might try and interpose some forces here that would cut the rail line here in central China. Certainly a viable strategy. Luchou, these guys are moving toward Luchou. Which has almost 1,000 assault value. So if he does try and throw something in there, I mean, I don't know what he would do. It would be interesting if he tried to move here. Because frankly, I'd have the roads to just move troops here and cut him off. So that would be a reckless move, I think, that would potentially get him in a lot of trouble. I don't think I can necessarily take him just one-on-one there, but I do think I might be able to rapidly cut his supply and diminish his effectiveness there. Let's go ahead and have these guys all stand down. I need to figure out what I want to do with this Chinese force. Do we want to try and push toward his rear in Changsha and see if we can force him to pull troops back? Maybe give this division another bloody nose? Do we want to move west to deal with this approaching Japanese force? I'm assuming it's another division, but if it is, I mean, we might have enough troops in the area already between the 560 base there, the additional 246 on the way. We'd have about 800 assault value. Not far off what we had from this last battle. We have way more troops we can bring in if necessary. So I think we're safe-ish there. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign out here. I appreciate you guys for tuning in for the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, guys, I will catch you guys on the flip side.